What do you think is most likely to be the biggest wealth transfer regret in the next 20 years?
The lack of productive citizens coming out of these wealthy families. Wealth creators don't think are living up to their responsibility. That's not an easy fix, especially with the way our society's in flux right now with AI coming. A lot of business owners built successful businesses by being very good at a blue-collar service.
The belief that selling a business equals freedom. Why is this a dangerous lie for an entrepreneur to believe?
Because it's a trade-off as opposed to equals freedom. The most free entrepreneurs I know have figured out how to run their businesses and keep them and be free. One set you understand for a set you don't understand. One set of complexities that probably you've simplified to enough. If you've got a big business, you've simplified it. And it sounds weird, but the bigger the business, the simpler it is. You got to simplify the business to the point where you don't have to run it every day. You have to make yourself redundant and unneeded. You have to make yourself not key to the business anymore, because if you're key, you can't leave. All your value is wrapped up in you. And many business owners have a hard time leaving that most valuable player position in their business because they're the most valuable player.
Hello and welcome to the Legacy Council presented by Lambergg. My name is Kevin Rosenquist. Today's guest is Carlos Lowenberg. He spent decades helping families and entrepreneurs turn wealth into purpose. He believes planning without purpose is just math, and that real legacy comes from impact, not accumulation. In our conversation, we dig into why so many millionaires underestimate their own wealth, how philanthropy can actually create more cash and control, and why selling your business isn't freedom. It's often just a new kind of trap. This is a powerful look at money, meaning, and what it really takes to build a lasting legacy. So please welcome Carlos Lowenberg. Carlos, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to chat with you. It's interesting because I feel like in a business like yours, appearances and status can dominate for people. Was there a point where you first realized that authenticity was more powerful than that looking successful sort of thing?
I'll tell you though, after 9/11 happened, sort of that idea swept through people. It was right around there was the dot-com bust, in 2000, and then 9/11 a year and a half later. And I think that a lot of folks were like, man, we've been showy. And so I heard about authenticity before, and the word authenticity just wasn't around nearly as much, at least in this context before that. And I think that did, but I always kind of felt like, frankly, I had a very good coach early on in my career who said, people are going to like you if you just show up and be you. And instead of showing up like somebody else or with all this stuff, Yeah. So that really helped me back in the mid 90s, early 90s.
Yeah, you're right. I think back to that time and yeah, it was showy just in general. I mean, even when you think about the way movies and TV and commercials and everything it was very showy, and
Yeah.
do you feel like the newer generations that are coming in to talk with you about legacy planning and stuff, are they a little more authentic? Are they a little less concerned about outward appearances?
I would definitely think that's the case. I mean, I also think that there is the right word might be a repulsion to the showiness of the Instagram or whatever you want to call it, sort of the flashiness of what they perceive as a fake or out there. Although they would like to not be influenced by that, they are.
Yes, more so than they probably ever want to admit. Yes.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think it's repulsive to some people that there's so much flashiness and you think about the influencer sitting in a rented jet for an hour. That's kind of funny, right? I mean,
it is funny. Yeah, taking
yeah,
like 500 pictures they can repurpose
yeah,
all over the place. Yeah.
yeah.
That is interesting. But
Yeah.
it's good. I mean, I think that's a good thing that the younger generation is feeling that way, and certainly we've all seen what social media can do, and there's a lot of negatives there as far as unrealistic expectations of looks, wealth, power, what have you. So it's good to hear that people are rejecting that to some degree.
But even so, the influence is interesting. And this is not so much younger people, but it's all over the map. I got interviewed for an article in USA Today about the fact that people who are worth like 30 or 40 million dollars don't think they're wealthy enough to be including philanthropy in their planning, because they think they're not wealthy, because all they see is, you know, billionaire type lifestyles all over the place. And they really are. I mean, that's a tool they should introduce to their planning. You know, it has an impact in many ways. So
Kind of terrifying to think someone who makes $40 million might not think they're wealthy.
yeah, right.
If that's the case, I am very poor.
Yeah, they just see they're always looking up, right? So who's wealthier?
Who's got more? Yeah.
Hmm.
Sure.
Yeah.
You've said that planning without purpose is just math. I believe I saw a quote from you
Hmm.
saying that.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Legacy planning, especially estate planning, if you will, um, for a lot of people, is just a series of math decisions and unpleasant legal decisions meant to minimize the damage and not let things go in a terrible way. I mean that's really what people think of estate planning, and it's unfortunately. I was sitting at coffee with a couple of old friends of mine, and they've built quite a nice estate, 60 or 70 million dollars, and somebody walked up. What are you guys doing? Oh, we're doing estate planning. She goes, oh, and she made this sign like I'm going to vomit. You know, I was like, wow.
That's
Okay.
how people view me.
Yeah, this is great. I'm a popular guy. But I mean, it's unfortunate that that's how people see it, because it could be such an opportunity,
Right.
you know. It really is. I mean, it's a responsibility, but it's an opportunity. And so impact, if you start with impact, and then let the math support your impact goals, then things change.
Why do you think people have that reaction to planning ahead? Is it a desire to not think about death or the end, or what do you think it is?
I think it's partially that Americans don't like to think about death at all, you know? And I think also that it's dispositive. Like, okay, I like making money, right? We all
Yeah,
do. We all like making money. We
of
all
course.
like moving ahead. We all like getting stuff and all the things that come along with success,
Yeah.
and
Buying stuff
so
is fun.
this, yeah, and so this is the opposite. Now I've got to get rid of it. I'm talking about getting rid of it and it going away, and um I think that's part of it. I think that it was a lot more fun to, in most cases, uh, get and enjoy the stuff they've got, the houses and the different things, than it is the other way, right? So I think it's those two things.
Especially for someone with a decent amount of wealth, some sort
Hmm.
of satisfaction in knowing that you're helping to set up future generations with the tools to be successful and to thrive. But maybe not everybody feels that way.
I think that the responsibility isn't matched in a lot of people's heads with the enormous opportunity that comes with it. So it is drudgery. Going to school, for instance, when you were young, to a class you did not like and did not enjoy learning, was not nearly as much fun as when you got to choose what you learned about and grasp things because they were going to help you. And so I think it's just that human nature thing.
Hmm. You brought up philanthropy before. Do you feel that it's a duty of people with means to donate or to give back to communities, to charities?
Whether I do or not, our government certainly feels it's their duty to pay their fair share.
Hmm.
And that varies, okay? But there's an estate tax and there's some income taxes that are progressively higher as you make more money. So I don't really bring my values to the table. Uh, the government's going to take almost everything you make if you don't do something. Social capital is what we call philanthropy is allocated, and if they want to let the government allocate their social capital for them, I mean, if you have what I mean by that is you have a business and you sell it, and there's a capital gains and income tax. Say that adds up to 30% depending on what state you're in. So you sold a $20 million business and you've got no basis in it because it's an S corp or whatever it is, because you've taken everything out of it, as you should. um, you're going to pay $6 million or so in tax. um, that's social capital, and it's not it's not yours. It's society's, and governments laid claim to that for the people, for we the people.
For the
So,
people.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I realize it's not that efficient, and there's all kinds of problems with that. But so you can control that. You could take that 6 million and say, I want this to do something different. And it's not like just signing a piece of paper and making things change. It's doing some planning and redirecting that 6 million to what's meaningful to you. So you're going to give back. That's not the question. You know, you're doing it.
Hmm. Whether you know it or not.
Whether you know it or not, whether you acknowledge that fact. So so do you want to control that or not? And most people, when they understand that, it's like, maybe I do want to control some of this.
Yeah,
Maybe all.
yeah, that makes sense
Yeah.
to me.
The way of thinking about the give back or the giving, people go, man, I'm already going to pay all these taxes, and I want to leave. Philanthropy begins at home. I want to leave my kids all this everything. So I can't introduce charity, because if I do, then my kids are getting less, and it's not that way at all. Unless you're just not thoughtful about it. So it's really about repositioning yourself and your assets and the way you operate to where you don't disinherit your kids with your philanthropy, you disinherit the government with your philanthropy.
That's a really good point to bring up, because I don't think a lot of people would understand or would assume that. I think a
Yeah,
lot of people would assume like anything they give to any sort of a cause is money away from heirs or whoever else is getting money. And that's a good point to bring up, that is not the case.
yeah, it's definitely not the case. I mean, it's got to be thoughtful. You write a check, it is that way.
Yeah.
You know, 90%, 89 to 90% of the nation's assets are assets and not cash, not money. Businesses, real estate, you know, and those things are appropriate for philanthropic planning because they can go into trusts without you getting rid of any money. And it might be future value in those things that you might be giving that's going to give you some tax benefits now that allow you to actually give more to your family if that's what you want to do. So you create more cash with philanthropy. That's that's the kind of the bottom line. I tell you, you create more cash and more cash flow with philanthropy. And ultimately, that if you're a decent investor, meaning that you've got to be able to invest better than the government, better than government tables, if you will. Government tables are sitting around 4.5% right now. If you can beat 4.5%, you should be investing that money rather than the government. And so you can create cash with philanthropy. You can create more cash flow, and create more choices.
Yeah. Is there a phrase or a concept from the wealth planning playbook, if you will, that you would like to see just go away?
There's this idea of charitable intent. An advisor meets a new client, they're wealthy enough to be doing stuff, and they kind of say, does the client have charitable intent? If not, all the charitable tools are taken off the table, or they never even show up. I think that's a terrible idea. That should be replaced with something like, I'm as an advisor on financial and estate matters, I'm going to provide some leadership as well as relationship, and so I'm going to be serving you. But one of the ways I serve you is showing you what's possible. You might think the horizon's just over there, but I'm going to point a little bit farther down the road and show you more that's much more is possible. Because when you know that, you might wake up and go, I do have charitable intent. I don't have enough charitable intent to disinherit my kids, but that's not the question. And so I think that idea in the playbook that's been there forever, do they have charitable intent? Not now, because no one sat down and talked with them about how this works.
Right.
I it's kind of like longevity is like a big deal right now, right? And people are all focused on, or some people are, I don't know, maybe it's everybody according to online, but they're focused on that, but they didn't know about it. And until someone said, well, would you like to live longer? If you could eat differently and maybe take some supplements and live longer and live better and live healthier, would you want to? People are like, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Most people would.
Most
But if
people
they didn't
would,
know
yeah.
about that, they didn't
Yeah.
have the intent. You wouldn't ask them, do they have longevity intent? I don't even know what that is. I'm not
They'd
gonna
be
do
like, excuse me? Yeah,
it. Yeah,
totally.
yeah, Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
interesting. That's interesting. You've talked about charitable philanthropy and charity a lot. Do you feel is it a problem, or is not enough money going to causes that need it?
Yeah, two things. There's not enough money going there, but also there's not enough leadership going there. Somebody who's built a $20 million business has the ability probably to organize in a way that can have some high impact.
Hmm.
And so if instead of giving half of what they've earned to their partner, the government, they could choose a different partner and provide some leadership, which they've already demonstrated they have, and spend that more wisely. So yeah, just giving money to foundations, that might not be as meaningful. Being able to direct that and actually see some good being done is meaningful, but it requires some leadership. So I think that's what might be missing. It's a both and.
When it comes to planning, you've helped a lot of families with their planning, wealthy families, middle class families. I'm sure you've seen it all throughout your career.
Yeah.
Was there one particular heartbreaking time when you were like, man, if this family had only planned, if they had only figured out a way to get a plan together, this could have been all avoided?
Okay, so I'll tell you where you see problems. Um, so we used to say, and I don't know where I learned this, but we used to say that planning can't make an unhealthy family healthy,
Hmm.
but not planning or planning unwisely can make a healthy family unhealthy.
Hmm. That makes sense.
Okay, so you see people set up situations, best intentions, best intentions that make their children or grandchildren basically competitive over assets because they just didn't, they do things like, I want to make sure my kids are always together and everything. So I'm going to give the business to the boys and I'm going to give the real estate the business sits on to my daughter. And that's going to be great. It's just like, well, this is a way to make sure that about a year after you pass, they're never going to talk to each other again.
Hmm.
And I'm going to tell you that is left and right. That is rampant. And frankly, it's because of the of leaving sort of the somebody in charge with the planning to execute, and then a plan that you thought was going to make like the best of intentions. Again, I want my kids to be closer, so I'm going to do this. Well, they are dealing with each other.
Talking a lot more.
They're talking a lot more. Maybe they're using lawyers, but that's what I see a lot, and it's heartbreaking. And um, it's the kind of thing that's kind of made me about face on how to think about legacy because it's you don't want to bring in outsiders in a sense, right? Like trustees and corporate trustees and people like that. But my gosh, it sure is better if everybody hates a corporate trustee than hating each other.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So
Give them a
uh,
shared enemy.
let's do that.
Yeah.
Because uh, people who built wealth have managers. And yes, they got to know them and trust them and work with them, and they worked for them. They managed their assets, they managed their employees or their whatever it is, real estate, whatever it is. And so it makes sense for someone to manage your estate and the estate after you're gone. That's somebody that's a professional. If you're going to hire the best, like when you built this $50 million business, you hired the best. You wouldn't have built this otherwise.
Hmm.
So let's think of it with the same intention.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was going to ask you because I think the stories of succession between the HBO show, the Murdoch family, that's all coming. That's been in the news lately. We're
Yeah.
all familiar with the stereotypical power struggles. With real power struggles, obviously those are dramatized, to some degree. Are there unexpected sources of tension in succession that really blindside people?
Little things become big things.
Hmm.
So a daughter, a sister, whatever says, I Mom gave me this ring, before she died, and so it's really not part of the estate, and it's really not that much money, in the scheme of things. It's $100,000 or whatever it is, and this is a $10 million estate. And like, okay, well, I think that should come out of your half. Um, and it starts like that, and then it winds up being gaping, a gaping hole in understanding, and people lawyer up, and that $100,000 is the smallest expense they're going to have in this thing. And I've seen the other side where people go, yeah, you know what? I think she's wrong, but I'm going to let you go ahead and do that. Then the sister takes a little more. Well, or vice versa. It's a lot of little things, death by a thousand cuts sort of thing that happens to these families, and many times it's not even a big estate. Maybe talking like a couple $100,000 that hasn't settled for 8 years because the four siblings have been fighting about it. I was talking to somebody the other day where the oldest sibling who was in charge of everything passed away because it's been going on for several years, and became stressful, had a heart attack, gave it to the second one in charge, listed in the documents, and they're like, I don't want this. I don't want this responsibility. How do I, it's still not settled, almost a decade later.
Wow, a decade.
A decade, yeah.
And it's when it goes on that far, it's just you get so dug in that people are so much less willing to negotiate or to make concessions the further along that goes, because you've got a stance, and I've come this far, I'm not giving it up now.
Yeah, people rather be right than love each other most of the time. I mean, that is a boy. Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
Maybe today more than ever before.
Yeah. Right now it's like, yeah.
I wanted to talk about something I saw you shared something on LinkedIn. It was the Dividend Cafe essay on Liberation Day, if you remember that.
Yeah.
The belief that selling a business equals freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this a dangerous lie for an entrepreneur to believe?
Because it's a trade-off as opposed to equals freedom. I mean, the most free entrepreneurs I know have figured out how to run their businesses and keep them and be free, frankly. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love exits because, obviously I'm in the business of helping people plan their exits from companies, but really it's a trade-off for one set of financial issues for another. One set you understand for a set you don't understand. One set of complexities that probably you've simplified to enough. If you've got a big business, you've simplified it. And it sounds weird, but the bigger the business, the simpler it is. And that is not the case when it converts into 13 different asset classes and trusts and all those things. And you don't want to, and by the way, everybody wants a little bit of it,
Yeah.
And turns out everyone's wondering
for
what
10
they're
years.
getting. Yeah. And so the freedom, it's just not a, you got to learn to be free, period. And then whatever situation you're in, you can apply those principles.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. That's interesting. How do you help people gain that freedom without getting out? What kind of advice do you give?
The advice that you give to somebody we give to somebody to be free in their business is the same advice that we give them to make their business more valuable, because they're the same thing. You got to simplify the business to the point where you don't have to run it every day. Mm-hmm. You've got to make yourself redundant and unneeded.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, you have to make yourself not key to the business anymore. And because if you're key, you can't leave. All your value is wrapped up in you. And many business owners have a hard time leaving that most valuable player position in their business because they're the most valuable player. Mm-hmm. And but it's by making a team the most valuable player and that allows them to step away that makes the business more valuable. Consequently, that also makes them more free. if they can take it. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, there's some, sometimes a little bit of a rocky road to there. We've seen that. So that's the number one thing. The number two thing is building your people or getting the right team in place, being able to do that. So that's the second sort of big value driver in businesses and freedom driver. And third, having a real understanding of your finances and really making sure that that your corporate financial planning is ahead of your business, meaning that most people run a business and their corporate financial planning is somewhere behind it. They've got a financial system that's appropriate for a business half their size or 10% their size because they didn't focus on it. They focus on the other things that make the business run. But
Sure.
that financial side is what, learning to run that better makes you wealthier. It makes your business more productive, and it makes you're able to know what levers to push to do certain things, and it makes it more attractive to an outsider who can. The more transparent financially you are, meaning the more you can see what's happening yourself and show what's happening to the business financially, the more valuable it is. And so, and all those things contribute to your personal freedom because they contribute to your peace of mind. If your financials are 90 days out, like you're going to do a $20 million company with a financial report is 90 days out, I'm like, man, 90 days, a lot can happen.
Oh yeah.
A lot can happen.
It's interesting because I find that, you know, that some people, either they're control freaks or sometimes they've been doing it all themselves for so long. It's hard to do that, to step away, like you said, to make themselves redundant, to
Hmm.
make themselves less needed. I've worked for people before. I remember I worked for someone who really tried to, he did that. He put things in place, and then he would have sometimes just come around and start like a bull in a china shop trying to do all this stuff and change the way things were going when everything was going fine, and you're just like, what are you doing? Is it
Yeah.
like does some people have a hard time stepping away because they lose a part of their identity, they lose part of like what they've always known, and that's the hustle mentality, that go go go?
I think it's a few things. I think, and they can all exist in one person. One is what you just described, but I mean, if you think about most business owners, also, they're in survival mode for the first many years of their business,
That's a good point.
and they learn to survive. And you find those business owners many times in their family are maybe the black sheep, or maybe the one that didn't do as good in school or whatever, but they went out on their own against everybody's counsel and did it right.
Right.
And so, but they're also independent, so it's hard to tell them what to do. Like they're
Right.
fiercely independent, right? And then they have this survival mode thing that that they're basically lying to themselves about to keep going. That they're still in survival mode, and if they're not in survival mode, they'll put themselves back in survival mode. They'll go spend a bunch of money, or they'll go wreck something, or they'll create a mess because they're creative people. They've created a business, and they will pull the rug out from something under, from pull the rug out in the sense that they'll kill something that's actually working pretty well,
Hmm.
or try to improve it with 19 different shiny objects, distractions galore. And um, so that's part of it, right? That's the part of it that needs to be fixed. I mean, like there are coaches out there that therapize or on this stuff, you help you figure this stuff out, how not to sabotage yourself. The other thing though is that a lot of business owners have, and I'm not qualified to talk about this very deeply, but a kind of ADHD
Yeah.
that makes them sort of time blind or um, work blind. So they don't know that when they hand somebody a project, they're going to work 9 hours on that thing. They thought of it in 3 minutes, and they think maybe it's a 20-minute thing.
Yeah.
They don't have any idea of what
I have
that kind of
definitely run
work
into that.
takes. Yeah,
Hmm.
right. And so they don't. It's not over delegating so much as it's just they're like, oh, you took off a day to do that. I mean, man, I didn't know that. I mean, I've done that, right? And you kind of go, wow, I didn't realize I was taking you off track like that. So
Mhm.
really, that sort of ADHD that's just you don't know what you don't know, right? Entrepreneurs are uh, focused on their world and have ideas and vision and things like that. So those two things together and sometimes people have both of all those issues, and which makes them extraordinarily energetic. Um,
Sure,
and
it's one way to put
that
it.
energy can destroy as well as create. So
Yeah,
I think that's a big part of it.
yeah. Looking ahead, there's been a lot of talk about wealth transfer, with the older generation, starting to kick the bucket and drop some, to drop some wealth down. There's differing opinions on what that is going to look like in the future. What do you think is most likely to be the biggest wealth transfer regret in the next 20 years?
I think the lack of productive citizens coming out of these wealthy families, people who are not really who the wealth creators don't think are living up to their responsibility, whatever that is, and that's not that's not a easy fix, especially with the way our society's in flux right now with AI coming and all these things coming. I mean, a lot of business owners built successful businesses by being very good at a blue collar service. A great big AC and heat company with 600 employees,
Mm.
and um, they happen to hire the right folks and go the right make good decisions, but they're technically savvy
Yep.
and
They've been
and
through the trenches. They've been in the trenches and been
yeah,
through it all.
yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
and
Mhm.
their kids don't have that any sort of technical training. They go to good schools and private schools and all that kind of stuff, but in the end, um, they may not be ready for um, as anyone, they may not be ready for what's coming as society changes, but they have a cushion, so they don't quite have to figure it out. There was a book years ago called, I think it was called Hard America, Soft America, or something like that, and it was about how our education system was so bad, it was ranked, so poorly and everything else. But by the time those same kids got to be 30, they were much more successful in many cases than their counterparts in other countries that were better educated. And it's because our system sort of put you through it. And you had to figure it out, and people would figure it out in their 20s, right? And by the 30, like they've got it. And I'm afraid that's breaking down. Uh, I don't think that was a book that was written in the 90s, I think. And I might have the title wrong. I think it might be Soft America Hard America, but um, we coddle our kids too much, and then we throw them out and go for it. Well, I think now what's happening is with there's so much wealth, is that coddling lasts, and there is no go for it. You're out on your own, sink or swim uh, scenario anymore, and so that's we're losing that, and there's so much wealth, and there's so much of a separation between the wealthy and I'm not talking about this politically, but it's just happening. Wealthier people are wealthier by a magnitude of wealth than they were comparatively to people middle class and lower middle class. So,
Right.
um, so there's some sort of mismatch there, uh, and there's going to be lots of everyday millionaires not productive, and I think it's part of this crisis we're having with young people already, with depression and different things like that already happening. I think it's a big deal.
That's really interesting because, yeah, I could see what you're saying. I mean, I feel like we see that in a lot of different situations where you're just like, someone takes, I mean, it's kind of a classic story, right? Someone takes over a company and they don't know what the hell they're doing because they never had to figure it out, like you said.
Hmm.
So and yeah, if that keeps getting worse, that's not, that's not great.
Yeah.
Is it possible that like a second generation or third or so on could almost feel imprisoned by the wealth instead of liberated, even if they don't realize it?
I think so. I mean, I think it's one of those things that they kind of know about themselves, but kind of don't,
Yeah.
right? I mean, um, I think that, when we deceive ourselves with some denial, we can rightly say we didn't know that, but at the same time, somewhere in there we did. I don't know how,
Hmm.
um, it's, it's not the kind of deception that goes out and runs amok and rips people off and is a charlatan, but there's a kind of self-deception that makes you not break out of this prison or whatever, because you don't think you can survive without the comforts or whatever it is, and you're not going to prove yourself to yourself that you can. I mean, it doesn't make sense to. I mean, I've got friends who are trust fund kids who said, "No, I don't want it. I'm doing this on my own."
Wow.
And yeah, and very impressive,
That is impressive.
you know. Um, and but that's few and far between, as far as I know. These are people my age or a little bit younger in general, and they've made a decision not to play along. And I think it was a lot of times that's about control. They don't want to be controlled by the family wealth or the patriarch or whatever the situation is.
Whoever's divvying it up.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That makes sense. I could see that too, because yeah, that there's that example. That's a great example of what I was saying about maybe feeling a bit imprisoned, like
hmm
you're beholden to somebody rather than controlling your own sort of financial destiny or your own
yeah,
career path or what have you.
yeah, yeah. It's hard for somebody who's a wealth creator to leave behind a supportive system versus a surround,
Yeah.
a bubble, you know.
Yeah, because we all want. I mean, I've got a 4-year-old. I want to leave him something. I want him, but I definitely we work hard to teach him even at this age to that he does things just don't get given to him all the time. Even at 4, like you gotta
Yeah,
earn some things, And
yeah,
I definitely I doubt I'm ever gonna have hundreds of millions of dollars to give him, but hey, maybe I will. Who knows? I could see that like being. We all want to be able to give more than what our parents gave us and their parents gave them. We want to, that's probably one of the reasons too that you talked about kids are very coddled, and I don't disagree with that at all. That's a tough balance too as a
hmm
newer parent. It is hard because I
Well,
did not
your
grow up that way.
your
What?
your generation and up to our generation was not coddled.
No, I
we
was not.
we were the generation that raised ourselves
Yep.
fairly.
Yep. I mean, the amount of things that I did that my parents still have no idea that I did is
Right.
kind of amazing to me now as a father.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, how did you guys
Yeah.
not see this?
Yeah.
But who knows what it'll be with for when my kid gets older.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Moving on, you've been helping others shape their legacies for decades. I'm curious because you have a really interesting perspective on things. Have you thought about what you want your legacy to be?
I relate to legacy in a way that is, I just want, I don't want a legacy in the traditional sense. Like, I don't want to be remembered for X. I was reading about Charles Bronson and very interesting background, his military service, and then he gets to be an actor. And
Yeah, yeah,
on his,
action star, man.
yeah, and I love that guy, right? And
Yeah, it's great.
on his gravestone, he's like, "Don't shed a tear for me. I'm not here." And it doesn't mention anything about his acting, only his service. And I think that that's kind of cool. In that I don't think he was trying to the legacy he's got in the movies. I mean, there's just nobody like him, right?
Yeah, it's definitely
But
unique. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh. Just his
but
look, everything about it. Yeah.
right, yeah. But I feel like I'd really like to have something like he made the best use of his time.
Hmm.
That's yeah, I just don't really need to leave anything behind.
That's
I
a
mean,
pretty
that's really
boring the
it's pretty
headstone
boring. I
on
know.
the.
I
He
didn't
made a
waste
good
like
use of his time.
yeah. It's not really big. It's just really more. I don't want to focus on legacy. I want to focus on what I'm doing right now
Hmm. Hmm.
and how I'm spending. I'm thinking about the future. I'm looking at to today from the future only so that I direct myself to today well.
Do you ever, just because of what you see on a daily basis or close to it, do you ever worry that your own family might make some of the same mistakes that you were warning people about?
Oh, we
Yeah.
have. I mean, so my wife died. Let's see, 12 years ago now, and we left a lot. We'd set up some trust for the kids and done all these things and did these things right, over right. So my kids wound up with some wealth, my two older sons, and you know what? We had a rough time with we had some rough years
Yeah.
with all that, and they've they've really turned it around, but it just felt touch and go. Frankly, I felt like any day I'm going to wake up and one of my kids is going to be dead. I was afraid for their lifestyles, and it's very personal, but they, we just had to sort of put this all back together, and it took years. It took a decade almost to get, I would say a solid decade to get to where I can breathe. What's going on? These kids are doing great now, but it was difficult. And so I think that I got to experience kind of firsthand creating trust fund kids all of a sudden and creating a situation where they don't have any needs and don't need to look after themselves in a way that most people would as they get into the college years and beyond. And so that's really been an experience for me that's unique, that I can bring to the table, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can advise a lot of people based on that. Yeah, I mean, sometimes wealth and grief can be a tough combination too.
No, man, it's massive. Yeah,
Yeah, it can be messy, and I'm happy to hear that things got better and that things
yeah,
eventually got onto a
yeah,
better path.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
as we finish up here today, I'm curious to know about your philosophy on money because you seem to have a very good view of it. Obviously, you've dealt with your own issues as you just talked about, your own family issues with money. You've watched a lot of people have issues with money. If someone summarized Carlos Lowenberg's philosophy of money in a paragraph, what would you like that to be?
Hmm. Well, I mean, I deal with wealthy people mostly, almost exclusively, and I really hate philosophies that are like never go into debt. The
Hmm.
that whatever, never use leverage, whatever those things are. So I hate hard and fast rules like that because people tend to shy away from what's burned them. Okay, well,
Sure.
from their own decisions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the the thing is that people think that money and wealth is about investing, like getting performance, and that's just a part of the picture. It's one. It's not even the major part of growing wealth. It's really how you structure things, how much money follows leadership, and so whether you're a giver or someone who's supported by those who give, um, money follows leadership. So um, and it deserts the opposite eventually.
Hmm.
And so structure leadership, and this goes all the way down to like the nuts and bolts, where someone like Warren Buffett, who he may not be super popular with everybody, but he's been one of the best investors of our time. And yet, if you invested just like Warren Buffett did for all the time he did and bought the same things he did, you wouldn't have the same results. In fact, they'd be far inferior. It's because of the structure he's got set up, where he uses insurance companies to back his investments. He doesn't. You don't get to buy. You don't buy Berkshire Hathaway, and he takes your capital and invests it in businesses. That doesn't happen.
Hmm.
Um, so it's his structure. It's a thoughtful structure, and then his investment uh, business is meant to take advantage of that structure. So Berkshire Hathaway is a business. It's not a fund, and it requires leadership. So he's not just picking good companies and they're doing all this smart. It's really about his structure. all the way down to where he and others like him think about in terms of taking very seriously what they're leaving behind and what it's going to do, the impact it's going to have. So I guess I'm not getting this to you in a paragraph,
Oh, it's okay.
but
It's a real long paragraph. That's
yeah,
okay. No, I love
but
it.
a good structure, you can tell a good structure because if you and me are, if our structure was a partnership and we were partners, then the structure would mean that when you win, I win. That's just it. Any structure is going to work that way. And so that's good. And if it's not, then it's not a good structure, whether that's politically or whatever. Like if you set up a political structure in a situation where I win and you don't win, it's not going to last.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We see that, you know?
Yeah, we do.
So, so that's really my spending my time wisely is, and my philosophy is setting up structures where everybody wins.
Is that philosophy? Does that you put that into Masterpiece Partners?
Yeah. Yeah. Masterpiece Partners and Masterpiece Capital are two different companies. Masterpiece Partners is our consulting company. Masterpiece Capital is our asset management company. And we
Okay.
just, so I do it that way because there's some of our work is clearly consulting, you know, or coaching even. And so, but yeah, and the idea of of Masterpiece, the idea is that, you know, you're sitting here and the first thing I need to recognize is that you're a masterpiece. And it's not about the plan as a masterpiece. That won't be anything as good as that person who's been created is. But we're going to try and we're going to try and mirror that though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, Carlos, I've really enjoyed our conversation. It was great getting to know you and hear your story. If people want to get in touch with you, get in touch with Masterpiece, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah. So my email, you know, it's carlosl@masterpiececap.com, or Becca, who answers your emails faster than I do.
Yep,
If you noticed,
I
uh,
have. Yeah.
hers is like Blinder, Blinder @masterpiececap.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks so
Yeah.
much, Carlos. Really appreciate your time. Enjoyed the conversation. And yeah, let's stay in
Likewise.
touch.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Likewise.